There's also digital mock-ups and 3D graphics that people have used for prototypes. I mean, I remember when I was redoing my basement, I had someone come and show me how it could look within a 3D environment. So you have prototyping, and that also could save time if you have some kind of tool like this to see how something's going to look before you're actually making the modifications in real life. In a domain, we do something similar. Even like, let's say you want to make a web page and you do it first in HTML. So you have the content, then you might add, the dynamic parts and add them after, because first you make sure people are happy with the look and feel. You have HTML, CSS, and then you would throw in maybe the JavaScript components and the dynamic ones. And then last, you would throw in your database and your more complicated components to it. So you have something similar, which is kind of like the idea of the prototype is starting simple first, make sure people are happy, and then adding components to it as well. The Wizard of Oz prototype is kind of cool. It's based off of Wizard of Oz. I don't know how many of you have seen it. So I put a little clip of the Wizard of Oz, the scary, scary voice, and then it turns out it's the little man in the picture there who's behind the scary, scary voice. You can watch the clip I have of Wizard of Oz, and the reason we call the Wizard of Oz prototype, we call it based on Wizard of Oz, is because the Wizard of Oz design is, let's say you're creating like an automatic phone system that can understand people. That could be really complicated. So let's say you have a person who's pretending to be the automatic phone before designing it. So it's kind of like a prototype because you're not implementing all the hard parts. You're implementing the easier parts first and saving that logic, that natural language processing, that logic that would be much more tricky. You're saving it for later. And that's why it's called a Wizard of Oz prototype, because it's like the Wizard of Oz where you're pretending it's more powerful, but there's really a man behind the curtain. And it's a prototype as well because it doesn't have all the features fully implemented. I've done something similar, so I put a link to my article in there if you're interested. But I've done something similar with Professor Jacobelli in one of our research projects where we were testing a dialogue system, and before we were implementing an automatic dialogue system, we did it with one of our research students behind. So students thought they were chatting with an automatic dialogue system, but it was actually a web-based chat environment. But we were learning the strategies that the dialogue system could use, and we were copying and pasting the actual text that they would use, but we had a person doing it before we implemented the dialogue system. So this is just another type of prototyping, the Wizard of Oz prototype. Same advantage of a general prototype. It's faster, cheaper, easier before you start building the real thing. So prototyping in general is really valuable. It can help you build your design and get the feedback quickly first before you're down a totally wrong path, and then you've spent all this money and done a lot of expensive things. So we can learn from it. It's very easy to modify. Here's in my example, you can build a camera with all the buttons, but it doesn't actually work. But this way you can get a sense of how it would feel holding your hands, and taking pictures, and how it would feel. Does it feel right? Does it look right? Without doing the more complicated aspects. My other example is the Palm Pilot. This is, years ago, with the Palm Pilot. I remember having one of these, but the way that they designed the Palm Pilot was there's a block of wood, and and Jeff Hawkins, the co-founder, used it. Took a block of wood, put it in his pocket, and kind of like as if it was a device to make sure he was able to use it, and it was really convenient. Um, and then later on they implemented it, but this way it gave him a good feel, like, oh, is he free for lunch on Wednesday? Let me take out the block, tap on it, see, okay, great. Oh, I need a phone number, let me look it up. And and it's kind of just gives you a feel of it before you do the implementation. Here's another example. It's an airplane prototype. Why would we want to waste our money making an airplane if it doesn't fly? Think about it. So it's just the airplane. Doesn't actually, but it doesn't do anything. But there's a lot of advantages too. You can have people come in with luggage, try it out, make sure the seats are comfortable, make sure the aisles are wide enough to get your luggage through. So there's different advantages you can have without, and even though that might be expensive to build, you would think about the harder parts to build, and the harder parts to build would be flying, not crashing, and so you save on that. You can make sure the airplane is good first.